Welcome back to another episode of Do I Actually Like This Thing, or do I just like arguing with people? Hello, it's me. This one actually isn't a super easy thing to talk about, but it still feels like it needs to be said for me. And just as a heads up, I'm going to be addressing kind of heavy subject matter that the musical I'm talking about addresses teenage mental illness and suicide mostly. Be forewarned. See, I've always held the opinion that it's better to discuss a fictional work's value based upon its inherent story quality rather than its relatability or cultural and personal impacts. Like, I relate to characters from Frozen, but I couldn't give you a lot of other examples of it being compelling, and therefore I don't feel it's worth praising heavily. One of these days I'm not going to mention Frozen in any of these videos. That's not to say relatability and personal impact aren't worth anything. And it's not to say no one can find anything compelling to discuss with properties like that. It just means those properties aren't my priority. Which is why I was surprised by how much I wanted to talk about Dear Evan Hansen's personal impact on me. And I just think it's because of how great that impact was and continues to be, and because of my belief that it would still have merit if the personal impact did not exist. I didn't have my Dear Evan Hansen necklace on. Do you see it? Do you see it? Do you see it? Can you read it? You probably can't read it. That doesn't matter. I'll know it's here. Okay. Anyway. Let's get into it. Just to quickly summarize the show. Dear Evan Hansen is a musical that came to Broadway in December of 2016. I think it is still on Broadway, though it had a break because of COVID. It is about a teenage boy, Evan, who has severe social anxiety. His therapist asks him to write letters to himself every day, and he prints them out. Actually, now I'm not clear if he prints them out every time or if that was just an accident that one time. I think it was an accident that one time. I'm a fake fan. When another dude, Connor, at school finds the note and later ends his own life, his parents think that he and Connor were friends. Evan goes along with the lie, getting to know Connor's parents, starts dating Connor's sister, makes friends with kids in school who can relate to him, until everything is revealed in a horrible, horrible climax. I'm not going to get into the movie too much. I finally got around to seeing it, but I'm still like 9 months late, and I don't have a lot to add to the discussion, to be honest. Suffice to say, I think it was a huge mistake to cut the group songs that they did and add 2 more solos, which were unnecessary, even if they weren't that bad. I also think Ben Platt didn't need to return to the role. Some directorial choices were weird. There's just no crazy hot takes there. But discussions about the movie have led to a lot of discussions about its source material, naturally. Since the movie came out, and a lot of those outside of the theatrical community, the fandom that the musical originally had, they've been exposed to it. And I know there are a lot of people who find Evan unlikable as a character because he lies. He lets this grieving family treat him like a surrogate son and gives them this created fantasy of their son being happy, of him recovering, all while knowing that he has nothing of substance to give them to cope, for closure, all that. And I can understand not loving him as a character, but I just don't know if I agree with this complete shutdown of discussion that's going on. It was 9 months ago that it was really big on the internet. I don't agree with the complete shutdown of discussion that kind of happened, where it was this is a musical that praises the actions of a horrible person, therefore it's not worth anything. And frankly, if you'll allow me a quick little tangent. I'm kind of getting sick of every YouTuber talking about the same things at the same time without a whole lot of diversity of thought. Like, I'm not asking anyone to change their opinion just for the sake of devil's advocate or whatever, but I do think that, like, if you don't have anything new to say, maybe don't say anything. And I get that sometimes I just end up in the minority on a subject. That's fine. But I am usually of the belief that if you're having a discussion, there should be something new involved in it. Otherwise, it's not worth having. Especially if the popular thing you're required by trends or whatever to talk about isn't something you really know about. The effect that this movie is really big because people are really dumping on it right now, and I need to dump on it too if I want to get in the algorithm, is that a lot of people just end up saying the same things or being like, listen, I don't know anything about this, so stop asking me to talk about it, you know? Plus, there's always this thing that happens with wildly popular properties where the pendulum of opinion swings in the exact opposite direction as its like first wave of positivity and popularity. Like when it goes from positive to negative, it's like a contrarian wave. It happened with Hamilton. It happened with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2012. That's just popped in my head because that's something I know. I don't want to get too far into it. That's probably a whole psychological thing. But it also goes, you know, from negative to positive. Like, we as a public went from terrorizing Britney Spears to loving her to pieces. So, like, the pendulum isn't always for evil. It's just so bandwagon to me, and that annoys me. And I realize this phenomenon can happen when an audience just grows up and their opinions change on a property, or when a property is old enough for a new generation to kind of revisit it. But sometimes, as someone whose opinion hasn't changed that much from the original, hey, I really like this thing, it can feel a little annoying for everyone around you who originally were with you on that to be like, actually, this is the worst thing ever, and you're a bad person for liking it. You were there too. I saw you. Quit acting like I'm wrong for not moving with you. So those were just some random points I wanted to hit. To talk more about the musical, which I'm supposed to be talking about, I mainly want to focus on the songs that hit me the most, and I think are really important story-wise, and that's Waving Through a Window, Evan's, like, Didn't I Want song, or an I Am song. Discuss. Words fail when the words came pouring out, as a masterpiece of a musical once said. So Big, So Small, the mom song, and then the finale. Just because Waving Through a Window, I think a lot of people experienced this too, but it was like the first song that I heard from the musical, and it just felt very refreshing to me. I don't think I had ever heard a song that so perfectly encapsulated the feeling of being a socially anxious teenager who desperately wanted to change and didn't know how to. Like, I don't feel like people give it enough credit how these dudes, and when I just say these dudes, like Pasek and Paul, the songwriters, how these dudes who I don't know their brains, don't know them as people, so maybe they're pulling from personal experience, but these dudes who maybe don't even have Evan's exact experience managed to capture that feeling so well. And then So Big, So Small and Words Fail were kind of just master classes in delivering a lot of information. Like, Words Fail is very dialogue heavy, like sung dialogue. And So Big, So Small basically tells a story while still being full of emotion, and also sort of having a reveal in your story because you've been building suspense in this story for so long as to what exactly is going to happen when all of this comes out. And it's such a bittersweet payoff, especially with the finale, which I will talk about, but I think is a very well done ending, because it's not a perfect sugarcoating of everything that happened, but it's also not the most depressing it could be. On to our main protagonist. He's certainly flawed. I understand if he's too flawed for audience members who do want protagonists that they can align morally with in order to empathize the absolute most with them. I just always felt that he was flawed in the exact same ways that I was, therefore realistic to the socially anxious experience. And maybe that means I take it a little too personally when someone says that Evan is a terrible person and his mistakes are too severe to redeem, because they are mistakes that I could always imagine myself making. I just always felt that the musical made it clear that Evan had things to work on. Like, the ending wasn't the ending of everything. And I'm not trying to make any claims about everyone who experiences social anxiety. This is just my experience. Can only speak for myself. But it's hard to explain. There's something about social anxiety that makes lying extremely tempting, if that makes any sense. Like, it comes with the overwhelming feeling that if people don't know about some mistake you made, or some quirk you're not proud of, then it doesn't exist. I know I said I was only talking about my experiences, but I have to use the word your, or this becomes way too real. Just let me have that. Like, you're willing to inconvenience yourself so much as long as you appear normal to other people. You know, like, you show up to an appointment an hour early or longer, which disrupts your day, but it doesn't matter to you because you will definitely be on time, which means people will like you, I guess. It's a lot of, like, yes, you're being very rational. He's not being rational. That's the point. While Evan's mistakes are a little extreme, I always felt like I could make them in the right circumstances. Yeah, it would be grossly irresponsible and only cause the family more pain in the end, probably. But once you're stuck in a lie like that, how do you get out of it without it blowing up in your face? Yes, I know I have a problem with hyperempathy. Do not point it out to me. So, like I was saying, I think the musical has a theme that it's revealing through this extreme situation. And it has to do with lies. Lies are at the heart of the entire musical. I'm going to do a little bit of a call out here. I swear I'm not trying to be shady. But Jenny Nicholson, now like months ago, I'm so sorry I'm so late. Jenny Nicholson did an extensive video about the musical and the movie. And I really love her videos. I'm not trying to be petty. She goes over a lot of the same stuff most of YouTube has been talking about since the movie was released. And I agreed with some parts, disagreed with others, that's fine. But I do have an actual problem with her concluding that there is no real moral, or that Evan doesn't really learn anything. She says that Evan is represented as a tree. Like, the story's equating him to a tree, which is especially clear in his epiphany of, how do I step into the sun, from Words Fail. And to her, the meaning of this lyric was unclear. It was maybe that he needed to put himself out there more, which doesn't really make sense since he has a medical condition that can't be fixed quite that easily. She also didn't think the tree symbolism worked for Evan's mother, who can't possibly do more to support her son. So if Heidi's already giving him all the water and sunlight that he needs, what's the point of so big, so small? And I'm so glad that you didn't ask me, but I'll be happy to answer that. In my opinion, when Evan concludes that he's going to step into the sun, he's not saying that he's going to put himself out there socially more often, because, as she says, it's already been established that his illness makes that really hard. And a simple, just try harder, doesn't feel that good. Just saying, don't say it to people who have diagnosis. When his mother admits that it's hard for her to always be there for her son, I don't think she's saying that she's going to be a better mom now, because it's already been established that she is a good mom. She just needs to be at work a lot, and that's not her fault. But that doesn't mean a mother wouldn't feel bad about it, naturally. And I don't know if you noticed, but this musical is really big about emotions. Just speaking your feelings is sometimes enough. There doesn't have to be some huge action tied to it. Sometimes the confession is enough to make you and other people feel better. She cannot do a whole lot to change, except try and be more aware of what he's feeling by leading by example and talking about her feelings. The conclusion that I think the musical comes to is that we are driven to horrible, horrible mistakes when we keep things in the dark. Step into the sun. The sun isn't like boldness or whatever. The sun is truth. Evan lies to his classmates, a grieving family, worst of all, the internet. He even lies to himself about his broken arm coming from a suicide attempt as opposed to an accident. Even Jared isn't honest about how he has no friends except Evan. Alana isn't honest about how much she relates to Connor's story, except in the movie, where her motivations are very spelled out for us in annoying, unsubtle detail. The kids, well, it was more of a concept explored in the musical, but all the kids in school aren't honest about how little they actually cared about Connor, because now he's dead, which means he's notable, and let's pretend like we liked him for clout. Like Jenny implied, very interestingly, Evan is a tree, and tree needs light to grow. He already has a good support system in his mother. He's getting treatment, so he's got the water and soil, I guess, but he's not getting the light because he's not telling anyone other than maybe his therapist, but I feel like it's safe to assume not, how little progress he's actually making. So, waving through a window, so big, so small, words fail, and the finale will always make me cathartic cry because of how much they illustrate the moral so perfectly. That doesn't mean I don't have problems with the story. Like, I've heard people defend You Will Be Found, saying it's supposed to be overly cheesy and like trying too hard to be inspirational because it's sung by a bunch of people who didn't actually know Connor, didn't actually care about his depression struggles. But I really think they wanted it to be inspirational. That's the style of Pasek and Paul. The writing team who also wrote This Is Me from Greatest Showman, which is also criticized for being a little too obviously inspirational. And both of them are a little obvious, but I still like them. Like, it's sort of their role in the stories to be big, confident anthems. Like, let other songs delve into more subtle things. They make me feel things, so sue me. I also understand what people mean when they disapprove of Evan moving in on Zoe while she's under the impression he's giving her information about her brother. But If I Could Tell Her is still a good song. Like, I certainly don't approve of the two love interests in Waitress getting together, but that doesn't mean Bad Idea doesn't slap, both because of how good it sounds and because of how well it articulates the situation, bad or good. That's a song's job in a musical. Sorry you wanted it to be, like, nice. Zoe and Evan don't end up together anyway. The behavior isn't rewarded in the end. Sorry, I can't get angry on it. So this musical is important to me. And I've kind of just taken issue with how many people have tried to write it off as a show which is somehow not worth watching because it featured a main character who acted irrationally, even though he was given a motivation and consequences, which led to a larger theme. Maybe people disagree with me, that's fine. The internet has made it clear that no one will ever agree with anyone ever again, and humanity will kill itself arguing about whether or not Taylor Swift should re-record Better Than Revenge, or whether or not Cat Noir deserved to be thrown in the garbage can, even though the answer to both of those is yes. Die mad about it. Evan, I would have been happy to sit with you at lunch every day. And I don't know, I just feel like I want to thank everyone who's ever contributed to this musical. Like actors, writers, musicians in the pit, designers, technicians, like... And the show's already gotten a lot of acclaim. I just think that it is and has been well deserved. I also think some of its criticism is deserved, but like, can you people calm down a little bit? No one's gonna think you're evil if you don't make it clear to your audience that you disapprove of a clearly flawed character. That's all. Time to go hide in my cave for another year.